Now this next one is one of my favorite slides because this is the new media order. Now, if you look at the media trends, the pre-revolution, so pre-user revolution versus post-revolution. For example, online versus offline media. In the past, it's been very separate and very competitive. Oh, you're going to traditional media. Well, you probably, the internet is not. The lines are blurring today. Today, it's integrated into one medium. And we are internet or interactive media people. We believe that you should use everything that you can use. For example, if you use TV, radio, the difference is today you can serve it differently. But it doesn't mean that the other things aren't good. We're not saying don't go out and use your traditional PR person if you want to get on the Wall Street Journal. That doesn't happen necessarily only from the internet, but it's an integrated approach today. And today also, what you can do is you can measure what the effect of those different programs are. For example, I saw in Search Engine Strategies a very nice presentation where they presented every time they did a TV commercial, they looked at what happened to the search results. In other words, it lifted the actual search results. So you could put in one console, a dashboard if you will, to see every piece of media that you're using, how is that connected to your results, to your return on investment. So what they did is they staggered their TV commercials. So every time the results on the internet, the search results started to drop a little bit, they pushed in another TV commercial to lift that whole thing up. So it's so integrated that if you have the analytics to look at the picture of what's happening, every time you do a radio ad, what does that do? Or every time you put out a podcast, or every time you blog, what does that do to your other pieces that are out there? So the way I look at it is everybody's bread and butter ought to be a good website with good search marketing put in to begin with. That's your bread and butter. That's what the basic of everything that you should have is that should be in place. Because everything else drives traffic to that. So if you don't have your right message, if you don't have your right landing pages, if all of that is not intact, why bother to do any of the other stuff? Because you're just driving traffic to something that's a dead end. And then you're not going to get your return on investment. You're going to say this doesn't work. So I think, because it's integrated into one medium, which it should be, and you can measure it as one console, you're in better shape today than you were before. Now, media sources. In the past, you had a few large content providers. Now you have multiple sources, and they're vertically, focused. So you have a lot of different things, i.e. it's harder because you have a lot now. You had a few, now you have a ton, but the idea is to really plan it and look at the media and say, okay, now maybe I need a media consultant to help me figure out where my audience is and how to target it and how to get on the right properties because there's so many. Then you have the content control. It used to be centralized, controlled by publishers. Well, we know that now it's fragmented and it's controlled by the users. People are creating their own content at a very huge rate, so now you've got to keep up. Okay, i.e. Wikipedia, and a lot of people always ask me with Wikipedia, how do you know that the information there is good? They have editors. They have people that review it all the time, and the information is good. If it's not good, they throw it out. They actually have people that are watchdogs to make sure that that's true. Internet control used to be text-based, now it's video-based. And that thanks to FiOS and to other people like Verizon who have made it possible, and that was not planned, but those broadband and the fact that the internet now, we have the tools and the technology to actually be able to deal with all of this, because video is very high in bandwidth. So video, once we started to get into video, we really had to have the technology in place. 5 years ago, i.e. our name, Advanced Media, we started 10 years ago with Advanced Media, and we couldn't use it because people couldn't see it, hear it, or use it. So now we've come full circle 10 years later. We now finally can use all the things that we knew would be good to work with. So it's really come full circle. The main navigation method, as I said, was portals. Now it's search, as I mentioned. Google now has become, the search engine has become your big search tool to navigate throughout the whole web and finding lots of different things that meet your request. The consumer, basically largely influenced by advertising now, sophisticated, driven by reviews and rating. As I said, I'm looking for that pizza place, and now I can figure out, if I want, to figure out how good they are rated by people who actually ate there. Competitive advantage, exclusive content. Now we have simplicity, speed, and interconnectivity, so it's changed tremendously. Media consumption pattern, it used to be focused channel use, not anymore. Now it is multi-channeled and distributed attention, and as I said, fragmented, and that's really important to know because you have to really understand all of those properties and what the value of each property is. You know, is it serving radio ads? Is this property TiVo serving TV? Now, there's another TV. How many of you have heard of Spot Runner? If you haven't heard of Spot Runner, you will be hearing about Spot Runner. Spot Runner serves on the internet. It serves video ads. So commercials are now going to be moving to the internet, and Spot Runner, everybody's watching Spot Runner because that's the next best thing in serving this. Again, it's an ad serving tool so that it serves the ad so you can watch where you are. Now, one of the other things about this, serving tools, as I want to say, is that the serving tools enable the average consumer, the masses, to now use more radio ads, use more TV ads for a very cheap cost. Number one, it's cutting out the middleman. Again, advertisers are going to be upset about this, the traditional advertisers, because it cuts out the middleman. But more importantly than that is it uses remnant properties. What that means is that a lot of times there are times that are very low-cost properties that nobody's buying. They may not be the best, but it's kind of like this book, The Long Tail. Because you have a lot of properties, you can actually put your message on a lot of these remnants, for example, and they're not going to be heard by everybody. Let's say it's a radio ad. Maybe it's only heard at 2, 3 in the morning, and you're not going to reach the masses. But if you have enough of those spikes out there for very low dollars, you may reach a small target, and it may be just enough for you. So that's what this has opened up to the masses for advertising, is the tools, whether you use a service to help you with that, can now, those tools automatically go out and look for cheap properties for you and say, okay, between 1 and 2 a.m., here's a couple of radio channel, like maybe cable radio stations or radio TV stations or whatever, are really not selling, so they're going to sell that space to you at a very low cost. So that's what these tools can do for you, is identify those remnant properties that are out there, and then you can hook into that and have a wide net out there and collect up whatever you can get. Because sometimes tail words, as we do with search marketing, those tail words can bring you quite a nice livelihood and quite a nice return on investment, because the tail words are generally very specific. So somebody looking for that and they make a match, they're pretty much a targeted client. So the tail is really where a lot of the activity is going to be in the future. And social networking, limited to a very few adopters, like teenagers early on. Today it is mainstream, routine. MySpace is not just for teenagers anymore. Facebook has lifted you don't have to have an EDU, email anymore. So all of that has changed. And because of that change, there are implications. So, there are good implications, and, I think for advertisers it may be a time to wake up and sort of, get on the train because it's moving.